I will try to take you in my presentation through certain elements which are relevant for the future of Lviv. First of all, I want to show you what you are going to challenge in the upcoming years. But I also want to build bridges between transport planning and urbanistic planning. Bridges between what we are doing on the European side and what we are doing here on the Ukrainian side, but also bridges between the different disciplines. Now, I'm coming from an entity called JASPERS, and we have been entrusted by European institutions to guide countries through the accession process. Once countries are member of the EU, we accompany them to build up a sustainable system. Not only transport, environment, water, urbanistic planning. But I'm not the only one here from my team. I'm very happy that two of my colleagues are here as well, Tetjana and Rafa. This is just for matchmaking afterwards. And I'm very happy that a good friend of ours and the brain and heart of Ukrainian railways for the future development and also for the integration of the Ukrainian railway system into the European railway system is also with us, Oleg. But before I start my presentation here, I want to take you through one concept which is very important. And this concept we call discontinuity concept. What is that? You are not like most of the European cities we are working with. You were exposed to a discontinuity which is significant, and this was a war, and is the war. And if we want to prepare you for the future, simple reconstruction is by far not good enough. What we need to do is we have to prepare you, and you have to prepare yourself for the challenges ahead of you in the next 20, 30 years. And this is very difficult because we transport planners, we love conservative systems. We are collecting data, we are analyzing them, we are trying to predict trends, and accordingly, we are shaping the system. But this is not the case for Lviv, and this is not the case for Ukraine. What we have to do here is to zoom out, and we have to understand how you want to shape your future. Now, the first thing in this respect is the integration of Ukraine and Lviv in the European transport system. And you might believe it's a vision, might not happen so soon. In fact, it is ongoing. If you look at the timeline, we started working in Ukraine 22. Ukraine already became a member or a partner in the European Connecting Europe facility, meaning, unlike many other countries who have accession status, Ukraine has access to these type of fundings. And what we did, we are focusing on the border crossing points. Now, meanwhile, the first project is almost ready, and this project is very relevant for you. It's the first project of the European railway system pointing at Lviv. And this is the opening of the project between Chop and Uzhgorod. This will happen on the 24th of April. And this is the first step, but more steps are going to come. All this is based on a strategy which was done in the recent years and is still under development. And if you look at these red lines, you can see that Lviv is in the center point of European integration. That means that in the future, in the near future, you will have European railway system arriving at Lviv, not only from Poland, Mostiska, but also from Chop, which is connecting Slovakia and Hungary, but also from Vadul-Siret, which is connecting Romania. And in the center point is Lviv, and this will create specific challenges for you. What are these challenges? First of all, you have to understand the system 10T, the Trans-European Network. Now, what is the difference between countries who are very successful in their economic development and countries which are not so successful? One critical aspect is the linking between the planning and the funding. And I'm not only talking about public funding. Ukraine is going to face, as of 28 actually, a new funding area. For the first time, Ukraine will be part of European funding system and you will be programmed as such, but also private funding. But how do you want to attract private funding? The first important part is that you do good planning. This is what you are doing, actually. The second step is you have to carve the planning in stone. You have to make commitments, your state has to be commitments to develop certain measures. And only then the private sector is willing to take the risk to invest. If we are credible in doing so, you will see a fascinating aspect that the private sector will even overtake sometimes public funding because that's business. The 10T is the first carving in stone of what I mentioned before. You can see these lines, you can see the green lines, it's the so-called railway 10T system, and you can see the prioritization, these are these lines which are red, blue, and lilac, which are the priority corridors. Again, you can see Lviv is in the center. Now, why are we so eager to bring the European railway system to Ukraine? Because it has many advantages. One of the big problems we have is that the transshipment between the Ukrainian gauge and the European gauge is an economic friction. And it takes a long time to bring people across the border. When you will be member of the EU, there will be no borders, especially if you join Schengen. But this friction will remain. In order to overcome this friction, we extend our system, which has a higher system capacity because it was developed and it's constantly under technological development. You will have immediately access to a huge number of rolling stock which can operate on these lines. And in reality, we are defining an economic development axis. The future of logistics is green. And if you want to deal with logistics without considering the decarbonization, and railways is the main thought of decarbonization, then you will not attract private investments. So what we can expect is that along this development axis, stretching from Chop up to Lviv, or from Mostiska to Lviv, or from Vadul-Siret to Lviv, we will have a number of facilities which will serve the purpose of reindustrialization of Ukraine, which will serve the purpose of green logistics and economic development. Now, this economic development axis, and you heard all the principles, I don't want to repeat them, according to which we try to develop our systems. One important principle which became one of the key aspects of our investments is military mobility. We have to make sure that you have a sustainable military mobility access which allows you to create a sustainable peace. But we will also get intermodal hubs. And intermodal hubs here are not transshipment facilities. What we are planning to do is to basically take the freight from the road in the wide Lviv agglomeration and transfer it on the railway side. Now, it's not enough if we are thinking what to do here in Ukraine, because these axes are running, for example, down to the northern Adriatic ports. At the moment, the backbone of your logistics and of your military survival is the development through Poland to Gdansk. What our ambition is to open new arteries for you through Hungary down to Croatia and the other northern Adriatic ports. For example, you can see some projects. We also have to start thinking how to integrate you into the high-speed railway system. We also have to look into the possibilities of port development and the corridors which are leading to the borders from Bratislava. These are the access points. Notwithstanding the fact that the majority at the moment is running through Poland. When we are doing that, when we are developing these axes, you will see that the cooperation between the two countries or more countries is highly important. And this takes us to an aspect which I want to highlight a bit later, stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement on the large level, but also stakeholder engagement on the micro level. This is the Lviv note. As you can see at the moment, the working document. We are going to start this exercise by end of the year. And by doing this exercise, we try to reach certain objectives. Now, one objective is to take heavy freight rail traffic out of the city. Meaning, we will try to create a bypass through the city center, and this frees space, public space, for other purposes, for other functionalities. Now, Lviv doesn't have a high-capacity public transport system, as we call it, backbone system. One possibility we are going to check is whether the railways can serve as one part of this public backbone system. But we are not limiting it to Lviv city, we go into the agglomeration. Still, we need to secure the transmissibility of 1520 system in order to reach our transshipment facilities, which are usually located at the borders. Lviv will become also for passengers the entrance gate. So the plan is that you will be able to switch the gauge here in Lviv, trains arriving from all over Ukraine, and by switching you already do all the customs facilities. Other objectives, I don't want to go into details now because you heard many of those, redistribution of public space. But what could that mean? And here I want to make a very short stretch to our methodology which we are trying to apply. We are working, and you are familiar with that, you are academics. We are working with hypotheses. So we are analyzing, and with public participation and stakeholder engagement, we are trying to identify where are the issues, where are the problems, where are the opportunities, where are the threats. You might have heard it, it's what? Strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, but it's much more than that. It's a way of guiding your analytical process. You see some of the hypotheses, and there are many more already collected, and they are part of this assessment. And then we are coming to the option analysis, which will be a complex process of interrelated opportunities and options you have. And here we are not only talking about infrastructure, we are talking about operations primarily, from which we are going to deduct later on the infrastructure. As I promised to be short with my presentation, let me talk just a little bit about the stakeholder engagement. What is that? I already mentioned some stakeholders. We are talking here about the road development, the rail development, the public transport, the regional authority, the local authority. We are talking about the EU institutions, the donors, the private sector. We are talking about the population. All these entities need to be involved in a healthy process because it's a very, very long-term plan. And we want to put Ukraine into the opportunity to adopt, when you come to the negotiations with the institutions, with the donors, that you adopt an active approach, not a passive approach. We don't want you to wait until somebody's telling you you get 2 billion for Lviv. We want you to say, this is the city we want to live in. This is how we get there. This is the money we need. Now it's up to you to raise the funding.